All right, here is problem 6-16 from homework 612. And we're going to work through A, B, and C, starting here with part A. Okay, in part A, we have a right triangle with an angle, a side, and a missing side. Okay, right triangle with an angle, a side, and a missing side, that's when we're going to use our trigonometry. And this is where Sohcahtoa can come in to help us. And so Sohcahtoa. All right, Sohcahtoa is just if you see the side lengths that you're given, so even the side length that has a number or the side length that's x. If it's the opposite side and the hypotenuse, we're going to use sine. If it's the adjacent side and the hypotenuse, we're going to use cosine. And if it's the opposite side and the adjacent side, we're going to use tangent. Okay, so the first thing I do is I say, okay, 58 is my reference angle. That's the angle that I'm going to kind of base my sides off of. And in relationship to the 58, that makes 6 the opposite because it's across from that 58 degrees, the angle that I'm using. And the x is my adjacent side because it's between my 90 and the 58. And then my hypotenuse is my last side, or hypotenuse is always the side that's across from your 90-degree angle. So I see that the 6 is my opposite and the x is my adjacent. Well, opposite, adjacent tells me to use tangent. And when I use tangent to set this problem up, what I do is I do the tangent of my angle, which is 58, and tangent will be a button on our calculator. I'll show us that. And that equals the opposite side divided by the adjacent, because O comes before A in TOA. So opposite divided by adjacent. So that is 6 divided by x, and something I like to do is put this tangent over 1. Because if I put it over 1, then I have a fraction set equal to a fraction, and in a fraction set equal to a fraction, I can cross multiply. So I get to do 1 times 6, which is 6, and I get to do the tangent of 58 times x, which is the tangent of 58 times x. Now to get to get x by itself, I'm going to divide both sides by the tangent of 58. Because then it'll cancel on the right side. And then I got the tangent of 58 on the left side here. So when it cancels here on the right, what I'm left with is x equals 6 divided by the tangent of 58, and that's something that we need to put into our calculator. And so if I go to a calculator, just go to a Google calculator. What I'm going to do, make sure that I'm in degrees, because we're working with 58 degrees. And I'm doing 6 divided by the tangent, that button on your calculator, tan of 58, and that gives me an answer of 3.749. I'm going to round that to 3.75. Okay, so my answer here is x equals 3.75. So using trigonometry there, again, because I had an angle, a side I know, and a missing side of a right triangle. Now, I'm going to do part B. Part B is going to be an example of a 45, 45, 90 triangle. Okay, so we have 45, 45, 90, and I know that because it's an isosceles right triangle. And if you have an isosceles right triangle, it's going to be a 45, 45, 90 triangle. What I mean by isosceles is I see that there's 2 congruent sides with a right angle. Okay, 2 congruent sides with a right angle, it's 45, 45, 90, and I get to use my 45, 45, 90 rules. Those rules in a generic triangle are that the 2 legs are going to be the exact same, even given away by the tick marks here, meaning they're congruent or isosceles. And so if this side was, let's say, x, that means this side is also x. They're the same. And then there's this rule for 45, 45, 90s that you can take one of the legs and multiply them by the square root of 2 to get your hypotenuse. And so your hypotenuse in this case would be x times the square root of 2. Well, in the triangle that we're given, we're not given x, we're given 7. And so if this side is 7, that means this side is 7. And then I can use my rule that says I can take one of the legs and multiply it by the square root of 2. And so my answer here, just using my 45, 45, 90 shortcut, is going to be that x equals 7 times the square root of 2. And that would be my answer. I'm fine with you leaving it like this, otherwise it's going to be a messy decimal that would have to be rounded. I'm okay with that. Here we have our final problem, which is going to be a law of cosines problem to find x. I know it's law of cosines because I see that I have one angle in a non-right triangle and that one angle is between two sides I know, and we're looking for the side across from it. And so I'm going to use the law of cosines here, and the law of cosines is c squared equals a squared plus b squared minus 2a times b times c, 2 times a times b times the cosine of angle C. Okay? Angle C is the angle they give you. The one and only angle they're giving you in the triangle, which in our case is 32, is going to be our angle C. And little c is always the side across from angle C. And so if 32 is my angle, and that makes x my little c, and then the other two sides you can choose to be your a or your b. I'm going to make 15 my a and 18 my b. So I can set up my equation replacing little c with x. I get x squared equals 15 squared plus 18 squared minus 2 times 15 times 18 times the cosine of angle C, which is 32. All right, picking up here, we just got our law of cosines numbers plugged in, and then we're going to work using our order of operations to solve the rest of the problem. So we're going to start by doing the exponents, then we're going to do all this multiplication, and then we're going to do whatever addition and subtraction is left, and then we're going to square root both sides. So the first thing I'm going to do is just do these squarings here. So this is x squared equals 15 squared, and I need to use my calculator for 15 squared and 18 squared. And so I get 15 squared is 225 plus 18 squared is 324. And then I'm just going to leave the rest, minus 2 times 15 times 18 times the cosine of 32. And now I'm going to do this multiplication. What I'm going to multiply is this whole chunk right here. So I'm taking negative 2 times 15 times 18 times the cosine of 32, and I'm carrying that negative sign with me. And by carrying that negative or that subtraction sign with me, if I do this multiplication and get a positive, I'm going to make this addition. I'm going to add everything. If I do this multiplication and I get a negative number and it's, like I said, negative, then it's going to stay subtraction here. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to do negative 2 times 15 times 18 times the cosine of 32, and I get negative 457.94 or 95 if I round it. And since that's a negative number, it's going to be subtraction. So that's 225 plus 324 minus 457.95 if I rounded it. Now I just get to add and subtract everything. So this is x squared equals, and let's do the addition subtraction, 225 plus 324 minus 457.95, and I get 91.05. I have to now square root both sides to get rid of x squared, and I get x equals, the square root of 91.05 is 9.54. Does the answer work? It looks like it could. And so that would be my answer there, 9.54. Okay. Again, that's just the law of cosines. It's all about this original equation, being able to plug numbers in and then work through your order of operations. Any further questions on any homework or lesson, please always reach out.